come here to Lenox Road Baptist Church on September 21st and 22nd to have that warrant vacated and to deal with the underlying summons. In most cases, those summonses are dismissed. No one will get arrested, and we will have defense attorneys there, legal aid and Brooklyn Defender Services, to provide legal representation. It's free, and there are no tricks. And we've done Begin Again now in several churches throughout Brooklyn. We have helped over 3,000 people. We have vacated thousands of warrants. And so this is our next step to come back and take care of this. As you may remember, I helped lead the way this past summer when the city of New York vacated over 650,000 of these summons warrants. But we still have hundreds of thousands of warrants that were not eligible to be cleared. And so we are going to continue to do this to make sure that we can vacate as many of these warrants as possible. These warrants do not keep us safe, and they do not engender trust in our justice system. So we are going to do our part to lift this burden. But today, we're here also to announce that we're going to go much further. Since I took office, I have been very concerned about the number of marijuana cases we prosecute and what has been an intractable problem of racial disparity in marijuana enforcement. Seeking to address this inequality where Black and Latino in particular are subject to much higher arrest rates and prosecution, my office has decided to decline most cases where a person is charged with marijuana possession, and in the last several months we have stopped prosecuting most cases of smoking marijuana. In fact, we've reduced the number of cases we accept by over 90% in the last few months. We now decline most marijuana cases and only accept a small handful of cases where the use of the marijuana is egregious. For example, someone who's smoking and driving a moving car. In July and August of this year, we've accepted less than 12 cases each month for prosecution. Last week, NYPD has changed their enforcement protocols and have indicated they will stop making arrests for most marijuana cases, so we expect the number of cases we get to decline even further. This will reduce our prosecution of marijuana cases and the people who are arrested. However, when I announced my support for the NYPD's new approach regarding low-level marijuana cases, I said that we must remember those who have convictions on their record based on these cases that we are no longer going to prosecute. To fail to address these past convictions would be hypocritical and would be to turn a blind eye on all the harm caused by marijuana enforcement in prior years. So today I'm going to make good on the pledge and announce that starting with the next Begin Again on September 21st and 22nd, we are going to be working with our partners, Brooklyn Defender Services and Legal Aid and NYU Law School and Brooklyn Law School, to help people vacate prior marijuana convictions. We believe that there are approximately 20,000 people in Brooklyn who've been convicted for marijuana and are eligible to receive this benefit. We're going to be working closely with our partners to make sure that these convictions will be handled orderly, and we've worked with the court system to set up a policy how to deal with these warrants and the convictions. If you have a misdemeanor conviction for marijuana, I urge you to come forward and seek to clear your conviction. We will help you make this conviction go away. Everyone who comes forward will be given the opportunity to have an attorney represent them for free. Current efforts in our court system often require people to hire an attorney to get a case sealed. Here, you'll be given an attorney who will work on this case for free. You won't even have to come to court. The Office of Court Administration has graciously agreed that they're going to designate a time for when these cases will be heard in court, and that the judges will waive the petitioner's appearance. This is a big deal. It's part of our promise to enhance fairness and equity so past convictions don't continue to hold people back. It's also part of my Justice 2020 plan. And for a minute, let me just tell you about Justice 2020, because in January, after I was inaugurated, I said that I would get together scholars and experts in criminal justice reform issues, people previously incarcerated, academics, law enforcement officials, and other critical thinkers to think about how we can make our criminal justice system a more fair place and a place that's also effective in keeping us safe. We had about 70 experts who've come together, who've made 17 recommendations. Over the next few weeks, we'll be rolling out these recommendations, but a preview today was going back and dealing with past marijuana convictions. We understand that these people have already paid the price for marijuana use, and to continue this conviction in perpetuity, it does not make any sense and is not fair. So I'm hoping that all of you, the press here today, will encourage people and let people know that there's a way to get these convictions vacated. We'll have periodic consultation sessions in various communities throughout Brooklyn so people can get their convictions vacated. So that's extraordinary, but that's not all that we're going to be doing during this next Begin Again. We also have in excess of 3,400 summons warrants in Brooklyn for marijuana. These were cases that were not eligible to be vacated this last summer, so we will be vacating in excess of 3,400 additional summons warrants. Again, that date is September 21st and September 22nd. The people who are subject to those warrants won't have to do anything. They don't even actually have to come. If they have a summons warrant, we will take care of that here in the sanctuary. But if someone has a misdemeanor warrant, they've been arrested for marijuana and they fail to go to court to address it, they can come here on those days, and we're working with OCA that they will have to go back to court. Those cases will be, the warrant will be vacated, and I will then move in court to dismiss those cases as I am no longer prosecuting marijuana. Now, I believe that we're making Brooklyn a model for what a progressive criminal justice system can look like. We're doing everything tangible that we can do to make this a fairer system. We must remedy the harm to communities that were committed, and they were targeted. These communities of color were targeted during the failed war on drugs and during stop and frisk. You know, for example, in 2000. I was looking at my office's prosecution of marijuana cases, and I saw that in 2005, and pretty consistently earlier on, we averaged about 200 to 300 cases a year that we prosecuted and convicted someone with marijuana. But as the stop and frisk increased, we went from 200 to 300 cases to over 2,000 cases a year. A direct correlation to the practices and the enforcement policies. So we're going to go back and try to address those enforcement practices and give people a chance to clear their record. Marijuana convictions, a large percentage of these people have no other convictions, and for many people, about 12% of the cases, this was their only contact with the criminal justice system. So I thank all of you for being here. We're going to hear now from our public advocate, and then I'll introduce some of our other speakers. Thank you.
I want to thank the Brooklyn District Attorney, Eric Gonzalez. I want to acknowledge, of course, Reverend Herbert Daughtry and all of the men and women here of faith and all of the partners with the Justice 2020 initiative. And I want to thank them for their leadership in ensuring New York City is on the path to becoming a fair and equal city for all. Because far too often, low-level drug offenses follow our young people throughout their lives, causing them to lose out on the resources that they need to survive. We're talking men all over our city, most often men of color, black and brown men, who can't get jobs, not get loans, housing, because they were arrested for carrying a $10 bag of marijuana 15 years ago. and that's just not fair. Brooklyn has already started to move away from criminalizing low-level possession and use of marijuana, but today we're going further. With today's announcement of the Brooklyn District Attorney, joined with the Legal Aid Society, the Brooklyn Defender Services, Brooklyn Law School, and the Center on the Administration of Criminal Law at the NYU School of Law, we're going to go even further, and we will be offering those with a low-level conviction for marijuana the opportunity to erase that criminal record completely and start fresh. We're taking a major step in righting the wrongs of the criminal justice system, which has been broken for far too long. This is the first ever program like this in New York State, and I hope it will be far from the last, and I hope it expands all throughout the state of New York. Our justice system should be a foundation that stabilizes our community and not an anchor that weighs individuals down. And so I'm proud, obviously, to be here with my God squad, as I call them, and all of the individuals who believe in justice for all. And so again, I thank District Attorney Eric Gonzalez and the Justice 2020 partners for spearheading this initiative. And I encourage all of those who are eligible for this opportunity to take advantage of this great program. Brooklyn, once again, we're leading the way forward to reforming our criminal justice system, and I would hope that others would follow in due time. Thank you so much.
So I want to thank the public advocate for continuing to support the initiatives of the District Attorney's Office. Last summer, when I made a motion in criminal court to vacate 146,000 of these summons warrants for low-level offenses, our public advocate Letitia James stood right by me in the well of the courtroom, indicating her support of this. This effort is about keeping us safe and not having people run in the shadows because they're afraid that they failed to pay a fine and now they're going to be subject to arrest. You know, prior to dismissing these warrants, there was over 1 million ordinary New Yorkers who had failed to pay a summons and had a warrant for their arrest. So I am proud to stand with her, and I'll ask you during your travels throughout this city to let people know that they can come to Brooklyn if they've been convicted in this county and have their conviction vacated. I'm going to ask that Dawn Ryan, who is the attorney in charge of the Legal Aid Society in Brooklyn, come up and speak next. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is an important moment for individuals, especially individuals of color in our communities, who are facing numerous obstacles as a result of marijuana convictions that appear on their criminal records. It will be an amazing thing for the Legal Aid Society and every other defender group to be able to say to clients and potential clients that those convictions will going forward be vacated and dismissed, and that they will be able to pursue opportunities that were previously denied to them as a result of these convictions that had appeared for way too long on their record. For this reason and many other reasons in terms of all the positive changes that Mr. Gonzalez intends to make on behalf of Brooklyn, the Legal Aid Society commends Mr. Gonzalez, and we certainly look forward to continuing current initiatives and future such initiatives with the District Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Dawn. One of our partners from the very beginning of Begin Again, Brooklyn Defender Services, Lisa Schreiberdorf, who is the founder and executive director, is going to speak next. Thank you.
So Brooklyn Defender Services represents so many people in this community and throughout Brooklyn on a variety of things, including when they get arrested, if ACS is involved in their case, if ICE is after them, if they're losing their housing, if they're facing barriers to employment or education. We've represented thousands, maybe 500,000 people in Brooklyn on these issues. And every one of these issues is deeply affected by the fact that somebody might have a marijuana conviction and or a warrant. And that doesn't matter whether it's a summons, an arrest, and whether it was resolved, decades ago, as Mr. Gonzalez pointed out. I really want to thank the DA, Eric Gonzalez, for following through with the vision that he created and campaigned on and being part of the wave of progressive prosecution. And I believe that that can really change the face of our very unfair criminal justice system. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for following through on this, and we certainly hope that other district attorneys around the city also follow his lead. The decision to vacate prior convictions is a visionary one and is a much needed action that will save so many of our clients from deportation, loss of student loans, loss of housing, removal of their children, and other very disproportionate outcomes that make no sense. Of course, New York should legalize marijuana, but in the meantime, this is an incredible opportunity for Brooklyn residents, and we are very proud to be part of it.
I'm also joined here today by Assembly Member Latrice Walker, who is going to say a few words. Assembly Member.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to just congratulate our district attorney for always leading the charge on progressive values as it relates to our criminal justice system. While we stand here today and we celebrate this moment, please allow me to lend my voice to say that this isn't the only instance where he's been leading the charge. So it is my privilege and my honor to stand here on behalf of so many people in the 55th Assembly District, where I represent the neighborhoods of Brownsville, East New York, Crown Heights, East Flatbush, Bedford-Stuyvesant, East New York, and Cypress Hills. Some of those communities are the hardest hit and were the hardest hit based on stop and frisk practices, and who will overwhelmingly be reaching out for the support as well as for the opportunity to go on with the rest of their lives. We know that this issue regarding marijuana criminalization and over-criminalization was a decapitation of being able to have some upward mobility, being able to step out of the realms of poverty. So not only is this impactful for criminal justice purposes, but it's also allowing our families, our communities, to be able to flourish. So again, I stand in support with our public advocate, of course also with the legal eagles who stand in the gap between all of the constituencies that I represent and the criminal justice system with Legal Aid and Brooklyn Defender Services. And again, want to congratulate and also take this as a moment to celebrate all of the wonderful things that you're doing at the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. Continue leading the charge, continue leading the way, and I look forward to the other counties joining in with Kings County in this wonderful initiative. So thank you.
Thank you, Assembly Member. I also mentioned Justice 2020. The person who oversaw my drug and policy is Cassandra Frederic, who is State Political Director for DPA. She's here with us today, and I invite her to come and say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am really excited to be standing here. Again, my name is Cassandra Frederic. I'm the New York State Director at Drug Policy Alliance. We are a national organization working to end the war on drugs, and we have been working tirelessly for the last 20 years to end marijuana prohibition in this country. We have taken that fight to New York. As someone who is born and raised in New York, doesn't have a driver's license, was only educated in New York, I am really excited to see Brooklyn taking the lead in this moment. It is imperative that we actually have a full conversation about how marijuana prohibition has devastated communities around this state, especially in the city. New York City happened to be the marijuana arrest capital in the country. We arrested more people for marijuana than any other state. And that is despicable, considering that our leaders had the foresight in 1977 to remove criminal penalties for simple possession. I think it's important for people to realize that nearly 800,000 people in this state were arrested for simple possession 40 years after we decriminalized marijuana in New York. This is not something that happened by mistake. This is something that happened to control certain communities. And as we have conversations about legalizing marijuana, it is so important that we have law enforcement officials like District Attorney Eric Gonzalez leading the charge to deal with the full spectrum of harm that criminalization has done to our communities. So this not only looks like sealing records, as this initiative is going to show, it's talking about how do we divest from marijuana prohibition in all the administrative agencies that we are dealing with. And so I am sad that Brooklyn started because I'm a Manhattan girl. But I am grateful to follow Brooklyn's lead on this issue. And I think we can't stop here. And we're going to continue to push, and I'm going to continue to push Eric, to get these numbers higher. And actually, let's have conversations about how criminalization actually is not making anyone healthier or safer when it comes to drugs. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. I also want to give, there's a lot of clergy, I can't have everyone speak. I'm going to obviously have Pastor Cohal speak at the end. This is his beautiful sanctuary here, and we're going to be having our Begin Again event and the start of dealing with many of these marijuana convictions and vacating these summons warrants and dealing with misdemeanor warrants. But Reverend Daughtry is going to say a few words, and then we're going to hear from Pastor Cohal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, D.A. Gonzalez, and to the Pastor Cohal, to Public Advocate Tish James, elected official Walker, and to all of the elected officials, and to all of the